Hey, it's Jessica Damasa with WTF Health. What's the future of health? I'm talking to the who's who of health tech and healthcare innovation. And today we are diving into all sorts of exciting news happening over there at Vida Health. And Vida's been around for a long time, but some of the new stuff that's going on, pretty exciting. So I'm talking about their big push into the GLP-1 space, their new funding, 28.5 million just raised, and the hire of this guy, Joe Murad, their new CEO. So it's great to have you here, Joe.
Likewise, thank you for the invitation.
So this is exciting, new CEO for Vida Health. I want to dive in right there because it's nice to have a new face in the space. There's a lot going on, obviously, in the market, and I'm wondering, change of leadership at a time like this in digital health. What precipitated this decision from Vida?
Well, I think a number of things. So first and foremost, Stephanie built a super successful business from the ground up, right? She had the vision, the passion, the skill to really succeed. And I was brought in, I think, to really enhance that strategic direction at this stage and contribute to the company's success. So I happen to have some experience, scaling businesses in varying stages. Happens to coincide with a market that has these favorable market shifts, I think, that align with our strategic direction. And I think my direction, or pardon me, my experience building and scaling businesses should help, at this particular time. So
Yeah,
I'm super excited.
Yeah, let's dive into some of this experience because I'm like, I like the future caster in me starts to look at your background and where Vida is at right now, and I'm starting to connect all sorts of dots. So you're going to have to stop me from making some wild predictions here. You most recently came from With Me Health, which is a PBM and really focused on creating these very personalized prescribing experiences for people. And, I'm thinking back to Vida Health, the last couple of years announcing, the prescribing part of their business and that being a really big deal in this chronic condition management space, because up until that point, none of the startup companies that are in this virtual care space were doing that. It was all just strictly, apps and coaching. So talk to me a little bit about how your experience, working at a PBM and your deep expertise in terms of the prescribing part of the business. What's that going to do for Vida moving forward?
Well, just as you know, healthcare landscape is just incredibly intricate, right? Plan sponsors expect solutions to be integrated for all intents and purposes across the ecosystem, right? And including PBMs. I happen to have some experience in that, what I would consider a very complex part of our ecosystem that we operate in, and I can navigate it fairly effectively. And Vida, frankly, constructed a service offering that can basically seamlessly integrate within that ecosystem. And hopefully we can ensure a super smooth and efficient experience for all the stakeholders.
I'm sure, cost is coming into this as well, and particularly with, one big kind of drug, those GLP-1s. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about that, too, in your experience perhaps there, or just your experience in that PBM side of the business and how this might impact, what Vida is doing in the GLP-1 space. I talked to Stephanie previously about this. So Vida started moving into, prescribing GLP-1s where needed. And, this is obviously a great area for growth moving forward. So Joe, how is your experience going to impact that particular type of prescribing?
Well, I joined Vida because, frankly, the mission, the approach, and these innovative anti-obesity programs that we've constructed, and frankly, the groundswell that I saw that I effectively witnessed at my prior role, right? So, Richard Frank, who's our chief medical officer here at Vida, and his team have crafted what I think considered, a clinically and financially sound approach to anti-obesity medications, and that program in particular has received a significant amount of positive market feedback, and we're about to launch and deploy that across a number of Fortune 500 companies here in the new year. So that's super interesting in my perspective. The obesity step therapy program that we built is really super comprehensive for all intents and purposes. It leverages behavioral change and techniques that we've honed for extended period of time. We've been in business for over a decade, as you know, and it adheres to these recommended clinical pathways and offers what I would consider managed access to evidence-based therapeutics, including GLP-1s that you just mentioned, and when they're clinically indicated.
I want to talk a little bit about this, if I can pick your brain, as somebody who's, they're now leading a cardiometabolic care startup. Because, when this category of startup kind of emerged, it was really focused on, using digital health, using virtual care to provide, coaching and provide, more like links to, blood, like a wireless blood glucose reader, to bring all that stuff into the hands of the patient and really kind of wrap around support. Now we're talking about, you guys have moved in the direction of prescribing. You guys are moving in the direction of, weight loss, in addition to providing care for diabetes and heart disease and other things, even musculoskeletal care. And I'm curious about like what you're seeing in terms of how your clients are responding to, this shift in the conversation, from where it was like this whole person, whole body kind of approach, but really focused on just like coaching and tracking, to now, integrating in prescriptions like GLP-1s. Like, do large self-insured employers even care about the coaching anymore? Or are they just like, get my people on these weight loss drugs? Like, what are you hearing?
Well, so it's great question and observation, right? I mean, the weight loss market is incredibly saturated with a bunch of competing approaches, right? That are typically focused on just sheer numbers. As you know, I think it's a modest 5% of weight reduction can actually have some material clinically significant benefits. And so we take more of a responsible care approach, really requiring us kind of look beyond the scale, focusing on individual biomarkers, tailoring specific interventions to each unique case. And GLP-1 medications are really redefining our understanding of the impact on chronic metabolic health. And it's not unlike any other chronic condition. Obesity just often requires a lot more than just lifestyle changes. And I think that's why you're starting to see this market evolve. Behavioral change alone can help a certain portion of the population. Like we've seen that. Vida happens to have a proven operating history here and a track record of success. So, while medications may be necessary in certain circumstances, some will find, just less expensive therapies and medications, right? So anti-obesity medications and even those that actually who require GLP-1s, they still need to make behavioral changes, right? And plan on stopping those medications at the right time. So it'd be a little foolish, in all fairness, to dismiss the importance of behavioral change and the human provider element of this offering.
All right. So I think, what you're saying makes perfect sense for right now. But Joe, I've got to ask you, looking ahead, do you think that this idea of, no, we need to include the behavior change wrapped around, the prescription kind of package, like looking at this as more of a holistic treatment program, do you think that endures into next year, or do you think it changes one way or the other, scaling back the prescription side, or scaling up the going back into that more coaching behavior change mentality? I mean, I've been hearing whispers that those plans and employers are going to start cracking down on these drugs because they cost a lot. But what are you hearing? What do you think is going to be ahead for this market next year?
Yeah, it's a great question and observation, Jess. And I think what we're finding is plan sponsors in varying forms are, appreciate and understand this is not sustainable just to dispense a bunch of GLP-1s, right? So they're trying to find the right therapy and solution that's actually going to be best for their cohort of population. So that's effectively kind of falls squarely in what we've constructed here at Vida over the course of the past 10 years is this concept around the step therapy for obesity and diabetes they had mentioned previously. So I think what we're finding is that they're looking for thoughtful alternatives. And as you know, it's a really cluttered space and people are operating and need to sift through a lot of the noise that's out there to determine kind of what's a scalable and sustainable solution for their population in particular.
Yeah, it's a noisy space and it's getting noisier still. So positive noise here. Let's talk about your fundraise. So your hiring came along with a $28.5 million round that you closed with existing investors. This is your first since the mega round of 110 million back in 2021. What can you tell us about the fundraise?
Well, as you know, Jess, I mean, the capital markets are facing a just incredibly challenging period across all sectors and stages, right? Not just healthcare and digital health in particular. But I think what we found that, those entities that are features or hobbies may fade away, and those with sound models that actually focus on tangible, cost-effective outcomes are going to succeed, right? And so the capital injection that we received just, I believe, validates kind of the belief in the cardiometabolic space and sector that has the potential that I think we all see. And frankly, Vida's established success in addressing those employers' kind of growing concern around obesity and diabetes. It's also a testament, frankly, to the team, right, that we've assembled and the ability to actually execute that plan and have, what I would say, deliver, being able to deliver impactful solutions to the clients that we serve.
All right, Joe, one last question for you here, like, about your background and the markets. I couldn't help but notice that you've got an exit under your belt. So you were leading Pocket Doc when it was acquired by Change Healthcare. So, that's a unique skill set coming into the market at this time. I'm curious to know if we're going to be seeing you flex those muscles that you have anytime soon, and what kind of signals you're looking for in the market that might lead you to do so.
Yeah, I've been at this for almost 3 decades, right? And the substantial amount of investments that are been poured into health tech over the past 5 or 6 years are really, I believe, are going to kind of lead to this dynamic and potentially transformative stage. Um, as you know, markets fluctuate, inevitably, like it leads to companies having to adapt or consolidate or even exit the space in particular. Vita's near-term focus, I can say, is going to continue to remain on building and refining, I should suggest, a sustainable model that's really committed to tangible and cost-effective outcomes that improve health for not only the members that we serve, but the plan sponsors that are providing that support to them.
All right, fair enough. Can you give us any last words on, what some of those changes and what some of those, what's some of the things that are going to be scaled in the new year are going to be? Can you give us any sneak peeks? What's ahead?
Well, what's super interesting is Vita obviously has a 10-year plus operating experience with personalized care, integrated mental health support, and the power of human connection. It really positions us incredibly well to capitalize on this growing focus around obesity and diabetes. And that should offer, some immense potential for future growth and expansion.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep our eye on it, Joe. It's great to meet you. It's great to hear a little bit
Likewise.
about your background, and I love hearing your perspective on the market because I like how you put that in about your 3 decades of experience here, and so you've been through a couple different cycles like this, and so I think it's interesting to hear what you have to say about looking forward and kind of where the opportunity is. So thank you so much for stopping by and sharing that.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Jess.
All right. Well, to find more interviews with those people who are changing the way that we do healthcare, you can head on over to my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/WTF Health. That's Joe Murad, the new CEO of Vida Health. And I'm Jessica DeMassa. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.